welcome to Books, Cats, and Chaos. I'm James.
And I'm Casey, and we are a husband and wife duo who loves all things books, cats, and the chaos in between.
Today, we will be discussing chapters 21 through 26 of Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first book in the Throne of Glass series, and I think this puts us not quite halfway through the book yet.
Just about.
But we're getting there. This is my first time in this series, so we are not talking about any spoilers from any of the other, what do they call it? The Maas verse. So no ACOTAR, no Crescent City, and nothing from any of the future books in the series. We're trying to keep this very clean, straightforward. This is what we're talking about, and yeah.
So I'm going to jump in with a content reminder that we are adults who like to use bad words. And we will be discussing a couple murders, so some adult themes. So just be mindful of who may be listening around you, as we will, again, be using some colorful language and talking about some adult themes.
Put your headphones on. That's the best thing I can offer. You got little ones? Just throw your headphones on. They don't need to hear this.
No.
As we always do, we like to do a reminder also to like us on our channels. We have quite a number of them now, and we have a mostly functioning website. The biggest thing that we're working on now is getting content up for you guys. But we've got the first couple episodes. You can go back through, read the archive. You can link to Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. You can get all of our content there. Or if you just go to go to bookscatsandchaos.com, all of the current episodes and information about what we're doing, who we are, all of that stuff is up there. If anybody cares, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. If you like what we're doing, you can donate us a coffee. We greatly appreciate it. We run on coffee. Although tonight we're running on cider and brandy.
Don't spill our secrets.
Yeah. Thanks to our friends down at Honest Abe's for some black cherry brandy. It's good stuff.
Real good stuff.
So yeah, let's jump in with our chapter recap. And Casey is going to take it away tonight.
Right. So we start chapter 21 with Selena dangling from the castle walls, trying to get a flag in order to win this week's test. Most of the champions are following each other, but she decided to scale the castle the hard way, because of course she did. But it wouldn't be exciting if someone didn't fall off and die, right? And whoop, there goes Ned Clement, aka Scythe. But that wasn't exciting enough. Oh no. Grave just had to push unsuspecting Nox off the castle too. And being the badass that she is, Selena wraps herself in rope and makes a mad leap off the castle to rescue him. Chapter 22, Selena heroically saves Nox. They finish the test, but Kane, of course, took first place. Dorian congratulates Selena on the heroic save, while Kale remains silent. During the next couple of weeks, Selena competes in more tests. I wish that we have gotten more insight onto those tests, but Kane continues to taunt her during trainings, and Dorian winks and smiles at Selena during her tests, making her feel all of the feels. Chapter 23, Kale wakes Selena up from a horrible nightmare about Endovier, and then informs her it's Samhain and invites her to service. But not the feast later that night. She declines the service because who would want to go to service? Later, Dorian runs into Selena, Nehemia, and Kale in the gardens and teases Selena about her centuries-old dress before taking his leave. The trio then find Kane being totally sus in front of the clock tower and see that more Wyrdmarks are revealed. Chapter 24, pouting in her room, Selena discovers a secret tunnel, doorway in her bedroom, With nothing else to do, since she wasn't invited to the party, she follows it and discovers the outdoor sewer and a possible chance of escape. She also discovers a room that overlooks the grand hallway and they gasp. A lot of the champions were in fact invited to the Samhain party. How rude. Chapter 25. Selena dreams about the secret tunnel and meets the ancient Queen Elena. Elena then gives her a mysterious task as well as commands her to become the king's champion, as if she's not doing that already. Kale and Dorian are mad at each other because they both snuck off from the party to see Selena in her room. Only Kale leaves Selena with a trinket from the party. Chapter 26. Kale once again barges into her room, waking her up, demanding to know where she's been all night, as he suspects her of what? Of murder. Dun dun dun! Another champion has been murdered on Samhain. Selena suspects Cain and then also suspects the monsters in the, what is it? Secret tunnel! Test and training for that day have been cancelled. Selena explores the tomb again, not getting any answers while Kale and Dorian remain salty with each other. Phew!
That was a mouthful.
It really was, and I feel like my heart is just like thumping.
Hey, there was a lot going on. This section of the book like really picked up. There was just like stuff coming from, the left and the right. The
Yeah.
left and the right. What is that? Oh yeah, left, right. Yeah, sorry for all of you audio people. You're missing out on
Oh yeah. So much action going on over here.
Yeah, I'm 40-something years old and I can't tell my left from my right. So, it's fine.
It's all good.
So, all right. Chapter 21. Let's get into it.
All right.
So the chapter starts with Selena dangling from the wall of the castle during the test. She's about 70 feet up, which that's pretty decent.
That's about, the width of the archery test for the longest distance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But just up. Anyways.
Up. Well, I mean, if you remember, we've been rock rappelling and we've been caving and
Yeah.
that hole in Nevada was, I think that hole in Nevada was
like 60 feet or
60 feet or so. And you remember climbing out of that hole on that little tiny ladder?
Yeah.
That's a good way up there. So
Yeah.
So from personal experience, I know 70 feet is nothing to laugh at.
No. And they are, it sounded like they didn't have a belay system either, which we did. We had to have a belay system.
This is a test.
Yeah.
And you could die.
Yeah.
And like you said, oh no.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun, right? Foreshadowing. So anyway, 70 feet up. That's high. I can say that from personal experience. That's very high.
Yep.
All of the other champions are also going up the wall. One of the champions is missing. Guards don't know where he went. And we're getting this idea that somebody is picking off the champions. At this point, what did you think happened to the champion? Like, did you immediately go to, oh, he got murdered? Or
at this point, it was either, oh man, we got another murder already, or they somehow figured out how to escape. But I wasn't sure which. All they mentioned was that one of them was missing and guards didn't know where he was.
See, that was surprising to me. It was like, well, if initially my thought was, well, if he was murdered, I think that the guards would know, right?
Yeah.
But they legitimately were like, yeah, we got no idea where bro is. And, but they're like, continue on with the test. Don't worry about it. So yeah, we were trying to figure out what was going on. That was more foreshadowing. Um, so back to the test. The test was the champions had to scale the wall in the castle to retrieve a golden flag. The first one to grab the flag got a pat on the back, and the last one was going to be sent home. At this point, we still don't really know what being sent home means. Like, does it mean going back home to be a prisoner? Did you get a pardon for participating? Is your country going to kill you when you get back? Like, all we know is that you get sent home, and nobody really wants to be sent home. That is not, you know, the goal. Even if you can't get first, you don't want to get last. There's just something in the air out. You just don't want to be in that last position.
No, not at all.
So we saw that Kane was in the lead, as he has been so far.
Of course.
He's taking the easiest path, which, same bro, because why make your life more difficult than it has to be, right? Selena, of course, decided to take the more difficult path. But she had a reasoning for it. She figured that if she took the more difficult path, that she would not be as likely to encounter the other climbers, because this was a no holds, like you could try to knock other people off, and she, rightfully so, didn't want to deal with that. And I feel like they would have gone after her.
Oh, definitely. A bunch of guys up there with one female. Oh, definitely would have gone after her. I think too, though, her pride was also there and she wanted to show off a bit. Like, look at me, do it more difficult. Look at me, do this where everybody is like following the leader and dun dun dun. And she's like, I can think outside the box and I
She's
can
like,
do it this way.
No. I just imagine Kale at the bottom, like, what the hell?
I feel like he's been doing the what the hell like the whole time.
But as it turns out, this actually worked well for her and for Nox. So she's taking the difficult path. The equipment, they're all getting tangled up, and so she's looking at it thinking, this is more difficult, but I can move more freely. So there is a very strong chance that I can pull ahead of everybody because I don't got to mess with all that stuff, that's going on over there, which is, good thinking. She's an assassin. She's thinking logistics, and sometimes harder is, the best route to go. So this, this test. Oh, hi, princess. This test makes sense because it is again testing their endurance, right? You had the archery, which was skill. You had the knot test running, which was also an endurance and stamina sort of thing. Climbing a wall is not an easy feat. I mean, it's hard enough climbing a 10-foot wall over your neighbor's yard, and there is an element of actual danger to this test because, again, if you fall off this wall, there's nothing at the bottom to catch you except for the cold, hard ground.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Earth says hello.
Yeah.
So, Selena is on her way. She's kind of taken a little breather at this point to gauge where everyone is. Of course, she sees that Kane is in the lead, and she's like, ugh, this guy, right? And as she's getting ready to... Princess is sitting in front of my notes. As she's getting ready to go up, one of the other champion 2Bs, one of the murderers, he falls. And, of course, on his way down... Or is it on his way down? No. Anyway, he falls and he dies, and everyone is very much like, oh, okay. Like, this could have been any of us.
Mhm.
More cementing this idea that you got to be careful, because splat. So at this point, we know that there have been a couple people now, champions, who have died, right? We have the Eye Eater, which I'm just like, why the introduction to this guy? And then he
And
didn't.
then, yep.
We have the soldier who tried to escape and he got arrowed to the throat. We have a third one that we don't know. We're assuming that he stayed in bed,
Something.
maybe has a hangover. And he's like, nah.
Oh, but see, if he had a hangover, the guards would know where he is.
Oh, that's true.
No.
Maybe he was like, bros, work with me here. No, I don't
So that's 3 so far, and now...
And now we have 4 for Scythe,
Mhm.
who, another guy with a really cool name.
Right?
Right off the bat, like, boom, he got into.
Yep.
So I don't remember how many champion to bees were brought in. Like
24.
24? Okay, so we're down to 2021, right? And it's only been, what, a couple weeks, maybe a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
It's been a couple weeks or
Like, these are
month.
not great odds, right?
Nope.
There's some shenanigans going on here, and so we got 4 down, and Selena, she's on her own path. No one's following her. No one seems to be interested in doing what she's doing, and that's justified for her. It's her moment to shine, even though literally nobody's even really paying attention to her because Kane's in the lead and everyone's focused on Kane.
No.
And I will admit, I was actually kind of focused on Kane at this point too, because I was like, oh, he's this like big, like burly, whatever. And he's literally good at everything.
Yeah.
And he's smart. And it's just like, okay. He's not just the stupid muscle that just, swings at things that are moving. Like, he is a man with a plan.
Yeah.
So I was a little focused on him too. I was like, this
I
guy
was
is...
actually kind of expecting to see some, I don't want to say aggression, but something from Kane with this. Either A, him struggle because he's such a big guy and trying to scale the big castle walls. Like, you would think that somebody smaller in nature, not necessarily shorter, but just like lighter in nature, would scale easier and faster. So I was expecting him to struggle a bit more with this, and he didn't. Like you said, he's been like acing every test. Or 2, I was expecting him to pull a Jack Barlow, which you haven't read Fourth Wing, but I was expecting him to like just start picking people off the wall and tossing them because
I was expecting, something like that. Just
like, let me just get rid of some of these weak links sort of thing. And we didn't get any of that. We got him just focusing on him and him completing the test. And maybe that's his strategy. Like, everybody else is beneath him. Let me just go through this and get...
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that he didn't like get ahead of everybody and then just sit at the top and just been like, yeet, yeet, yeet.
Right.
Like, but yeah, I really pegged his character as more aggressive and sadistic, and like, I will do and I will eliminate as many of you guys as possible as early as I can. And
yeah.
And he didn't. He's just like, nah, A to B, boom, done. Like,
Yeah.
such a weird change for the main adversary, really, which was kind of cool. I mean, it was nice to to read like a character who didn't follow the status quo of antagonize her, I guess.
Yeah.
But of course, that doesn't mean that the drama is not stopping there. Because
No.
what we don't get with Cain, get with some other a-hole.
Damn it.
I feel like this is where the song comes in. Dumb ways to die.
Oh my gosh. I feel like
Because
that applies to Ned, the scythe.
I mean, right.
But I mean it could apply to all of them.
Because well, so what we have here is we have all these champions are basically stuck in a traffic jam on the wall, and they're getting frustrated because they can't get away from each other, right? And so Cain had lassoed a gargoyle, did some cool shit, which again was like, dude, he's like big, bulky, like whatever, and he's swinging like Spider-Man up on this wall here. Like, who is this guy? Of course, other champions try to do the same thing. Varen goes to do it. Nox went to do it too, but then Grave pushed him back. And when Grave pushed Nox, he started to cut Nox's rope. And so immediately I'm like, oh man, they're going to knock off Nox. Like, this guy who's actually nice to her.
Right? Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
I was full on expecting Nox was going to be going down too. And I was like, that's not cool.
No.
I don't like that. But Selena, of course, sees what's going on. Well, there are a couple things. First off is, how did Grave manage to get a knife in? Because none of them are supposed to be armed. Why was he going after Nox? I think, I feel like it probably wasn't personal. I think Nox was just in the way. Like, he was the closest one there, and Grave did what I thought Cain was gonna do. He saw an opportunity and went, yeah, F that guy. And like, it was just like one less to get out of the way. And Nox was, he's not overwhelming,
Yeah.
threat. So it's easy to knock off the little guy, right?
Yeah.
But then, of course, we get to see Selena in action. She comes in, she slides down her pole a bit, and she swings over, saves his ass. And of course, by doing this, she kills her chance of getting up and beating Cain.
Yeah.
But
And
she made a friend.
she did. She saved her friend. And it does like grate on her that she lost to Cain yet again. And, that all the other champions beat her too. And it was interesting to read about her struggle because her need to come in first, her need to win was that strong because of her training with Arabin. But she saved somebody. She saved a sort of friend. And she felt like she couldn't be happy about that. I do have to say, this whole wrapping the rope around you and then jumping off and then taking on the weight of a male, like, it just seemed a little far-fetched for me.
I feel like it would squish your guts.
Exactly. Or, like, snap your spine or something. Like,
Yeah.
they're not working with bungee cords. They're, I'm assuming, working with, like, thick rope,
Yeah, there's not going to be a jump and then like a whee. It's going to be like jump,
Yeah.
Big.
It was exciting to read about, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going, nah, she would have died.
Yeah, unless the way that she jumped was enough for her to jump and then, arc as like a swing. But if she was jumping and down, then yeah, when you hit the end of that rope, it's just gonna and pull. And if nothing else, it would knock the breath out of you, and then she would have dropped him anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the way that was described is a little bit fantastical,
Mhm.
I guess, leave it up to readers' discretion on how you envision her doing
Yeah.
that, right? But yeah.
Especially for like an 18-year-old and then trying to hold on to a 20-something-year-old male. I mean, it does describe him reaching up and grabbing onto the rope as well, and but I'm happy that Nox was saved. I really am, because I actually really like Nox. I was just like, everything else seemed, pretty realistic up until this, but
Yeah.
we'll let it go. She's the heroine of this story.
She's an assassin. She's been trained and this and that and the other thing. And okay,
Yeah.
sure, why not?
So Nox and Selena are expected to still complete this test, so they have to hoist themselves back up this rope now and complete the test. Dorian congratulates her for saving Nox, and Nox, of course, is just thanking her over and over and over. And Kel just frowns at her. Not even a job well done or, anything. He just frowns at her because she stuck out too much and did not stay in the middle of the pack. Yeah, is your feelings for Kel changing slowly?
No, at this point,
Kale does, to his credit, try to comfort Selena, telling her 18th place is fine. Knox came in 19th and was saved from being sent home by Ned's death. The Scythe's death. Grave, for his actions, was not even reprimanded, since there are no rules for playing dirty. So, I wonder if this was from the king? Like, was the king hoping that the champions would, kill each other off during this tournament?
oh, probably.
Uh,
Because he is also a
Kale learns more about Selena's past with Arabin. Arabin had drilled it into her, since she was 8, that second place was just a nice title for first loser. And Arabin would have flogged Selena for saving Nox and not winning that test. Here's your dick moment, honey.
I mean, he is, but
Okay, fine. I was kind of hoping for a third one, but Arabin had trained Selena himself and then brought in tutors and sent her away to the silent assassins in the Red Desert. No price was too high for him, and when she was 14, he revealed that she would have to pay him back for all of her training.
see, now.
She did pay him back down to the last copper, and he spent all of it in 3 hours.
See, that's not even, like, the dick doesn't even. Yeah, that's worse.
Yeah. So we see a bit more emotion, actually, from Kale when he learns that courtesans go through the same experience as the assassins do. They're taken in young, they're bound to their brothels until they can earn back every coin that went into their training, wardrobe, etc. Selena calls him out for not apologizing to her for all the horrid things he has said to her when she was sparring with Nehemia. And he tells her that he won't apologize for speaking the truth. They continue to tease and banter with each other until Philippa comes in with news. What is Philippa's news? Drum roll. The champion who didn't come to the test earlier that day was found dead in the servant's stairwell, brutally mauled and dismembered.
And if he was in the servant's stairwell, how did he go for so long without being found?
Right? Because, the servants are using that, all the time to...
From, 4 a.m. until, midnight at least. Or 24 hours or whatever. See, that also didn't make sense. Nobody knew where he was. And not one servant went to the guards and was like, hey,
There's a
dead body in the stairwell.
right?
Also, his organs are missing.
Right? The servant's stairwell is going to be one of the most used things. And for him to be missing for half the day, more than half the day,
It's
that just
been
seems...
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. that did not seem
No. The next 2 weeks brought with them 2 more tests, a stealth test and a tracking test. Selena, of course, passed the test without drawing attention to herself or saving anyone. No more murders amongst the champions during that time, and she can't help but feel weary while Kale feels that the 2 murders were unfortunate accidents. How can they be unfortunate accidents when they were brutally mauled and organs were missing?
yeah,
And,
man.
like, no. Um,
An accident is falling off the wall.
yes. Yes, that's an accident.
But when your organs go missing, you don't misplace organs, you know?
No, no. And even, like, if it was a drunken brawl or something, you'll pummel the guy or knife the guy to death or something. You're not gonna maul them and then remove organs. Like, that's premeditated.
Mm, or at
But
least just crazy.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, uh, yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely not something you should shrug off. I
No,
would not be sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, these things happen." No, I'm sorry, sir. No, they don't.
no,
No, that is not how the world typically works.
no. My other thing was, so, like, the whole point of this to be the king's champion in this tournament sort of thing is about the tests, right? And we miss out on 2 of those tests. We miss out on the stealth and the tracking. And sure, they, as an author, trying to come up with something for each test is probably really hard. And, probably had to cut out scenes and stuff. But I would have loved to have seen more of the tests
Mm-hmm.
and seen more drama amongst the champions.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean,
I would have liked to have seen more of their skills and stuff too.
I can
But
understand, yeah, like you said, coming up with the tests is probably difficult. And also, how much time as an author do you want to spend fleshing out these different characters when
yeah,
ultimately they're all going to either just go home, die, or lose? Like, because they're
yeah,
not the main part of the story, because then you end up with things like Mr. Eye Eater, where we get a whole backstory, and then he dies, and I'm not gonna let that go. That's just,
you really, really wanted a more with the eye eater.
I wanted something, man. He got
Yeah,
an introduction, and then he got exit stage right. Like,
right. First one right out the bat.
what was that all about? But yeah, it would have been nice, but I can see from a writing perspective that it could be difficult to come up with all these characters. 1 or 2 sentence backstory, no problem, but then you got to
Mhm.
start giving them personalities, and then you got
Yeah,
to start giving them family things and quirks and
and
this, and
skills, and
it just gets
that's a lot.
uh, you know and the reader probably at that point is like, okay, do
Let's
i
progress with the
do I
story.
need to remember who this person is? Because why? you
Yeah,
know but you know the detail would have been nice, but I get it. you know it is what
my,
it is.
yeah. My other thing too is with Kale's feelings about the murders, the 2 murders. Um, would they have been the same if it had happened to members of the court and not to criminals? Like, because both people that were murdered were mauled and dismembered. Like, and you don't think that there's a connection? Or is it because they are criminals, they don't get much more thought?
Oh yeah, I think it's his total disdain for people who break the law, because he treats her the same way.
True.
Initially he's like, you're a criminal, you're a slave, and you're an assassin. You're not a person, you're an
Mhm.
assassin. And then, of course, with the trainings and stuff, and he's like, shit, you are kind of a person, you know?
Sort of.
But he's getting to know her.
Hmm.
He doesn't know the other ones. They are still just criminals. They're the lowest of the low, you know. They're the people that he goes after and, brings to justice. So, I mean, if a criminal dies, well, that's just one less criminal to deal with, honestly. Like,
Yeah, I guess.
I can see that. That's how I would imagine him treating it. Is,
Hmm.
it's just one less. Yeah, it's a little weird the way he died, but eh.
Yeah. So, Kane continues to taunt her at trainings because, of course, he does. And Dorian hasn't visited her rooms since the pianoforte incident, but he does show up to the tests where he greens, dear lord, where he grins and winks at her, making her feel all the feels. And first time we are starting, my notes are wacky. Um, oh, this is the first time that we actually get to see Selena start to worry about the final four for the final test. She knows definitely that Kane is going to be in the final four, and there are only 9 weeks left. She is getting stronger. She can run faster and farther, but she's finally admitting to herself that some of the other champs are also starting to look like they can be contenders for the final four.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this
And
is like a nice change because she's been kind of cocky
mm-hmm.
up until this point, and now she's like, "Oh shit! I have some competition, and they're still 9 weeks away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
holy
Yeah,
crap!"
it was a nice realization for her character because in the beginning she was very much like, yeah, and this was when she was weak and no muscle on, nothing. And she's like, I can take them, and it's like, girl, confidence is good.
Mm-hmm.
They would probably wreck you right now. Don't. Now we're a couple weeks in, she's getting stronger, more agile, faster. But she is realizing that she's not, improving in a bubble.
Yeah,
Everybody else is doing the
also
same
improving.
tests and the same, you know, they all have their own workouts, they all have their own, training with their people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's a good for her to look at and be like, oh man, like this might not be as easy as I thought it was gonna be. And
No.
if nothing else, at least it makes her focus and she's going to take it more seriously because, a threat is a threat and she sees Kane is a threat.
Yeah.
But some of these other guys too, they are not, these other guys are not messing around. Like,
No.
because everybody wants to, you know,
Everybody wants to win.
at the very least, they don't want to go home.
Or they want to survive and hopefully get pardoned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I did my part. I tried. There was no way I was going to beat that guy.
Yeah.
Can I please, like, just go home?
Yeah.
Um, all right. Chapter 23. Because that was chapter 22 that we forgot to mention.
We just rolled right into it.
We
It just
just,
kind of flowed.
yeah, it just went right like butter or something.
Something like that.
So, chapter 23 opens with Selena is having a nightmare about Endovir because PTSD.
Cannot stress that enough.
Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah. It'd be a lifetime of nightmares.
I still have nightmares about high school, and that wasn't even,
That was 20 years ago? More than
25
20?
years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't get whipped in high school.
I still have nightmares about trying to remember my locker combo and order my classes and
Mm-hmm.
oh,
I constantly dream that I'm constantly short credits because I keep failing math.
I dream, like, once I finally get to my class, that there's going to be a test or homework is due, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we can give a girl a break for having nightmares about literal enslavement
Yes.
in the mines.
Yes. Please get this
Um,
girl a therapist.
yeah, right. All right, Philippa, where are you? Is that so her nightmare is that she failed the test. She didn't become the champion. She wound up back at Endovir, which we don't
Oof.
even know if that, is her deal or not.
I think it was mentioned that, yeah, if she
Was that
failed,
her? If she failed,
yeah,
should she be going straight back to the mines?
yeah.
Um, oh, that's right, because yeah, she's using that as motivation to maybe escape, maybe not escape. We don't know yet. Um, and she doesn't want to get whipped again.
Yep.
And yeah, this is a very realistic uh insight to just a normal person. It
Hmm.
doesn't even matter that she is like this renowned, famous assassin. And the fact is that she is still only 18,
Hmm.
and that means that she was in the mines when she was like 16 or 17 or, something, right?
Yeah.
And that's trauma. Girls got trauma.
Oh, yeah.
And she, unfortunately, uh, she doesn't even get a chance to work through the trauma because she's just got crap coming at her from the
Yep.
get go.
Yep.
She's like, "Can I breathe for a minute?" And they're like, "No, do this."
Breathe on your own time. Get out there and win this championship.
And by the way, there is no your own time.
No.
All your time is our time.
Yep.
Um, so Kale wakes her up, telling her that she had been screaming, and he thought that she was being murdered. Oh, he cares, sort of.
Sort of.
He had come to cancel training because he comes, at the ungodly hour of the sun's not even up in the morning.
Mhm.
Um, he was canceling the training because of Sawen,
Yes.
and he wanted to see if she wanted to attend the services. She finds out that there's a feast. She's not invited. Now, I know that in
Boo.
particular, you had a serious issue with this part of the book.
Yes. Yes, I do. And this is, how do I say this? I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a native Irish speaker or Scottish speaker at all. I know a few words in Irish from my days of Irish dancing. Um, and but it and there's no shade, no anything to the audio narrator of this book. I know you haven't listened to it, and you just read the physical, but I've read it and I've listened to it.
I think you made me listen to that clip, though.
Or you overheard me like doing my research. But she
Oh,
pronounces it
yeah.
Sam Hewen, the way it's spelled in the book. Um and so I was doing research because I'm used to Samhain Irish being spelled Samhain. You know, that's how we spelled our cat's name and everything. So Samhain, is the original Halloween. So when I was reading Throne of Glass and it was spelled Samhuinn, and then it was pronounced that way, I was like, no, this ain't right. Well, it's a little bit of research, and any Irish and Scottish speakers out there, please email us, message us. I could be totally off. I probably am a bit off. Let me know. Um, but the Samhuinn is the Scottish spelling for their word for Samhain, which it is pronounced a bit different in Scottish, as it should be. Um, So my gripe is if you're going to use not just Gaelic or Irish or Scottish words in your story, um, this goes for any language. Just do a little bit of research into how it's supposed to be pronounced. You know, include a little glossary in the book, or if you're the audio narrator, just a little bit of research. Um, that that was my thing. So at the top of this episode, when I did the recap, I did say Samhain because it is Samhain. Um, my pronunciation might be a slight off depending on what part of Ireland you're from and everything. Um, the audiobook does say Sam Hewen, and if that's the way Sarah wanted it to be, I understand. I just think that if you're going to use words and names and stuff from other languages, we should honor that in those languages. So
That's the hard
that's
part when you mix fantasy words with like actual like historical things,
yeah.
because on the one hand you're like, well, this is a fantasy world, and none of it's real, and you have Endovier, and that doesn't, that's not a place, that's not a word, and you have just whatever. But then you pick one holiday that is
Mhm.
a real holiday to a nation of people,
Mhm.
and yeah, either take the word and then change it substantially so that
Mhm.
it can't be confused with the right word, or yeah, at least put a notation and say, you know, this is based off of this people, Irish, Scottish, or whatever,
Mhm.
and just say it's supposed to be pronounced such and such because you're using a real word, not a made up fantasy word.
Yeah.
Um, but like you said, unless she totally meant for this holiday to be called Sam Hewen,
Ma-
maybe somebody will correct interpretation here.
Maybe. But when you talk about bonfires and the spirits of the dead and everything, that it is clearly
Oh, it's very much Samhain.
yeah.
Like
But so yeah, that was me on my little high horse, and I'm stepping back, and we can continue.
she's back to regular height now. No, she's
Yeah,
not on.
you just continue,
Um,
smart ass.
yeah. So Selena, like I said, she finds out that there is a feast that night, and she's not invited. And I feel that because I've never been invited to a Samhain feast either.
I'm sorry. Should I start making a
I am
Samhain
sad.
feast
I
every
am the sad because I want to go to a fancy Samhain feast, but it's okay.
to my? Mm, we're gonna back up a second. So we got married in October, and I tried for a Halloween wedding, and you said no.
That's not the same. I just want
We
to go
could
to
have
a.
had
I just want to go to a feast.
uh, the wedding could have been the feast. We could have had a Samhain wedding. And
That's
then we could have had anniversary feasts on Samhain every year.
uh, it's different though. It's
You're
different.
picking hairs.
I know. Splitting
All right.
hairs.
Splitting. Oh my god. I give up. Anyway, so if anybody out there would like to start having a Samhain feast, I think we should email talk and let's maybe try to get something together, a book community Samhain feast. What do you think?
That could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hit us up.
Yeah. Let's see if we could get something.
If not, next year I'm going to the pub. So, yeah.
Fair.
Okay. Back to the story.
All right.
So Selena finds this out, and this sucks. Girl, same. She's invited to go to the services, but not get the food. That's like saying your neighbor says, "Hey, come with me to church," but you can't go to potluck. I'm
It's
sorry, but no.
no,
What? What? Why? No.
no,
That doesn't work for me.
no.
Uh, and so she's like, "Yeah, no. I got better things to do." Uh, uh, and then of course, she's informed that she still has training in the afternoon, and there is a test the next day.
Who schedules a test the day after a holiday?
I mean, you have to go to work after Halloween, so
I know, and that is
criminal.
criminal. It's also criminal, let me say, to have to go to work the day after St. Patrick's Day
Yep.
and the 4th of July.
Yep.
4th of July should be a half day of work. Then you go party because the party doesn't start until the evening, anyways, and then you get the next day off.
Yep. I
St.
know,
Patrick's Day
right?
should be the same.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
It does.
People don't know what they're doing.
But yes, so no, this was I get like why they may schedule a test after a holiday because, people are going to be drunk and they're going to be sleeping off hangovers. Wouldn't that be a perfect time to go and slit somebody's throat? You got to be on your A game.
I mean,
But
I
still, that sucks.
I've gone to work plenty of times with a post-holiday hangover. If I can do it, then they can do it. Anyway,
Anyway,
so there's another test, and of course we don't get to read about it. It's javelin throwing on horseback, which
that would have been fun to
sounds
read,
freaking cool.
right?
And all we really get to find out about it afterwards is that Selena's wrist is sore from throwing shit around, which, okay, but seriously, javelins are not light.
No, they're
And
not.
you got on a horse, right? And backed away from my microphone too far. You're steering the horse with the reins with one hand probably, and you're holding a javelin, and those things are long. They're probably longer than her. And trying to throw those with any real accuracy requires a lot of, muscle arm and shoulder and just like so.
Yeah.
And we also don't really know how well she did. I don't remember. I mean, she didn't come in last, but
I think she's sticking to middle of the pack sort of thing. But yeah, like, could you imagine the suspense and drama? Even like the archery test, they blunted the arrows because they didn't want, all the champions to like turn on the guards and people and stuff. So they probably blunted the javelins as well. But the suspense and drama that we could have had during this test, just like,
no. You just imagine somebody's like going to throw the javelin and they're like, "Oh, oops. I speared that guy off of a horse on accident. Oh no."
yeah.
Like total missed opportunity for something.
See, this is why these books need to be picked up like for a show or, like one of the long extended
Yeah.
Netflix shows or something, and this needs to be included.
Yeah, you could have some fun with the unwritten stuff. Just put your own little spin on it,
Yeah.
without getting too crazy. Shows should stay true to the content of the books. I will say that until the day I cease breathing.
Yep.
Movie, TV, Netflix people, I'm talking to you.
Let's get on this, please.
Stop changing shit that doesn't need to be changed.
Unless it's for the better. But yes, we like the books the way they are.
Yeah, for the most part, usually. But bad books don't get turned into TV shows, so. But good books get turned into bad TV shows.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, they go through the test. Her arm is a little, jacked up, which, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And now we are kind of pivoting focus a little bit. We're back to Dorian. Where's Dorian been? Off doing prince things, I guess? I don't know. And he's going through the castle and the gardens. He's got a headache because his mom has just been unceasing with there's a pretty lady, and there's a pretty lady, and there's a pretty lady, and there's a pretty lady. I want grandchildren. And Dorian is just like, oh my god.
Just what every young 20-something-year-old wants to hear from his mom.
It doesn't get any better, I'll tell you that much. And then you get older, and then they're like, you can still have one at 40. It's like, excuse me? No, you cannot. I don't want to be some decrepit old man when my kid's like 30. That's no fun.
Nope.
Anyway, so Dorian is just like, I'm out. Like, enough of this. This is BS. And he's very upfront. Like, he just wants none of it. So he turns around and runs literally into Selena, and she's wearing a dress that is about 100 years out of date.
Why does she have a dress this old in her closet when she had a dressmaker her first day?
I mean, she probably didn't know to ask for it. Honestly, she probably looked at it and she was like, oh, it's a dress.
I mean, she was only a slave for a year, and before that, she loved fashion.
Maybe it's kind of a testament to like how far her will had been broken.
Maybe.
And she got to the point where she literally just never thought that she would have that again. And so when it was presented with her, she was focused on like, I can't believe there's a dress in my wardrobe, and the idea of any. And I mean, she wouldn't really have any sense of fashion at this point because, I mean, things go in and out of fashion
True.
in a year's time, especially
Yeah.
with the way those ladies of the court gossip and all that stuff. Don't wear
True.
blue because or do wear blue because that's what Dorian, da 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 da. It's like they're probably
You
changing.
can't keep up.
Yeah, they're changing fashion every 4 weeks probably. um. So Dorian is focused on this, and he's like, "Wow, that's an old dress." But then immediately he notices that Kale and Nehemia and 2 guards are with them, and he is upset by this. His blood thrummed in his veins, right? Which is what was written in the book. Because you had called out that was kind of an interesting way to say that. And when you think about it, I feel like you can, at least I can feel like I can relate to that. Because to me, thrummed in my veins makes me feel like when I'm looking at something or encountering something that is just so it's like ugh, and you can just literally feel your blood like squeezing in your body or pulsing in your body. You're just like, it's hard to explain, but I feel like I know exactly what that feeling is.
Okay.
And in his situation, I'm like, okay, like bro is very much like, I don't like this at all. It's
Yeah.
grating on his very core for some reason.
For some reason.
For some reason. Why does Dorian care? So if he was anyone but the prince, right? He would have warned Nehemia of Duke Parrington's plans. The fact that he found out that they're going to bring more forces into Elway. They're going to crush the rebels. They're going to keep it so they don't challenge Ardalin's rule again. And keeping Nehemia there is to discourage retaliation because he's found all this out. And he's assuming that she has no idea what's going on, but he's a prince. He can't tell her because technically she is his enemy, even though she's also a guest in the castle.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very tricky.
So we do find out that Dorian was against this. He fought against this plan, was not in favor, very outspoken about it. But of course, it didn't go the way he wanted because people don't really defy the king,
Yeah.
you know? And thankfully, he did buy her some time since the king is gone for a while doing who knows what.
Nefarious things.
But, you know, it creates an interesting dynamic of, you know, the king very much has his plans on how he wants to do things, and Duke Parrington is very much in line with that. And Dorian really can't do much against it unless his father's not there. And then he has a little bit more sway, but not really enough to make any lasting changes.
Which has got to be so frustrating.
Yeah, which I imagine is why he is so frustrated, because at the end of the day, what did he accomplish?
He bought a little bit more time, but
yeah, but ultimately it didn't make a huge difference.
Yeah, so yeah, if he were to warn Nehemia and she were to just pack up and leave, you know, before she's supposed to, Parrington would know. He would be suspicious and he would know it would come from Dorian. And of course would tattle to the king and label Dorian as a rebel sympathizer, which he can't have. So even though Dorian has fought for a little bit of time for Nehemia and everything, yeah, he can't go against his father totally. He just does not have that power. So that's a really tough spot to be in for Dorian. And then, you know, you have that on one hand, and then you have his mom who's like, get married, have babies, think of the heir. And like that's two hard things to juggle, and
right.
You know,
and if I'm Dorian at that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm the heir.
Right.
I'm 20, 21, or like, why are we already thinking about the next guy? I'm the next guy.
Yeah.
You know, like, because he probably won't even become king until at least another 10 or 15 years, if he's lucky.
Yeah, or whenever his dad dies.
I mean, look at King Charles over in England. He didn't become king until he was like freaking 90. Or was it way past like the time that you would typically assume that role, right?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So then we find out that Nehemia was invited to the feast. And of course, Selena is not a sore spot in the conversation. Yeah. Dorian covers it up by saying that she was invited to a party in Rifthold. Selena and Nehemia leave to go do girl things. Kale is following behind them because he can't let her out of his sight. I don't know, at this point, he still thinks that she's going to kill Nehemia. He's like, I don't trust you, girl. She's like, bro, she's my friend.
Even though she saved Nox.
She's the only friend I have here.
Right.
Because, Kale, you're not my friend. And of course, this furthers the frustration for Dorian because he is like, I want to spend more time with her. And we talked about like things, actual things.
Yeah.
Music and books, and she's a person and I'm a person. And why does he get to spend all his time with her? That's not fair.
And I think too that Selena doesn't fawn all over him
Mm-hmm.
like all the other ladies do. Like, he actually has to work for her attention, and they have that sort of banter where they can, you know, go back and forth and snip at each other. And so that's a good distraction for him too, with the politics and Duke Parrington and the
Yeah.
king and then his mom and everything. So, but yeah, poor Dorian.
I know. I know. At this point, I was still very much like, I was like, Tori, Kale, like, which one do I like better? Who do I think's in? Because Kale's kind of but Dorian is, Dorian, and
Dorian is Dorian.
Dorian is Dorian. That's just the best way I could. Okay, if you look at it, right, Kale is Kale, and he's simple, and he's loyal. He doesn't trust anybody. And Dorian is complicated and smart and shit. And you really can't tell, like, which, direction. At this point of the story, I was kind of like, okay, Dorian seems like he could be a good whatever. Then I was like, yeah, but Kale is, uh, just two different, they're both good in their own ways.
Yeah, they are.
But honestly, I was more rooting for, like, girl, you don't need either one of them. Like, just stay the course.
Stay the course. Focus on the championship.
Yeah, so let's see. So, like I was saying, Kale is very much that soldier, mentality, protector, got to do stuff by the book, by the rules. And if I got to guard you, I got to guard you. And apparently they're having a conversation, and Kale is insisting that there's a difference between a soldier and a guard because he is a soldier and he's not a guard.
No, that he's a guard, not a soldier.
Yeah, sorry, dyslexia. I knew what I meant in my brain. That's not what came out.
That happens a lot to me too.
He is a guard, not a soldier. Yes.
Yes.
Nehemia retorts and says that there is no difference.
I think you side with Nehemia.
I mean, honestly, like, you're picking brass tacks, dude. Like, no, that's not the right saying.
Splitting hairs.
No, I mean, that is the right saying, but that's not the one I was thinking of. Anyway, what's the difference? The difference is he's not trained in battle, which I feel like this is part of his problem, is because he's not been trained in this particular way. He has been sheltered from a lot of, stuff in the regular world. And that's why he just has this very, like, narrow scope of, like, you're a person, you're a criminal, da-da-da, da-da-da, right, wrong. And it's like, bro, there's, like, so much gray area out there.
Yeah.
And he's, not seen that. He hasn't been shown, that kind of stuff. I mean, he's a guard who literally hasn't seen, like, any action.
Yeah, he's very contained within the castle, the palace. So I mean, I can see his point of view. I can see Nehemia's point of view because they're both trained to kill for the king, which is her point. But his point is because when you are trained for battle, you're trained to work within a team, within a squad, or within a battalion or whatever, you're trained to fight with others around you, to move as one, you know. They don't really do that within the palace. You're gonna have like
Yeah.
a small station of guards, and yes, you learn to fight, you have to learn how to use weapons and everything, but are you gonna kill? Maybe. Has Kel killed? No. Does he know how to kill? Yes.
Mhm. Oh, he's
But
very good at, what he does and what he knows,
mhm.
but he doesn't have the application of it in a real situation.
Yeah.
And there's just, there's a difference between knowing and being really good and having to use that, because I mean, if you think back, he's not the one who shot the arrow through the soldier who was trying to escape. That was one of the other guys,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
that wasn't even his order. That was an order given by the king.
Mhm. Yeah.
Shoot to kill. I think Kale would have been like, take him down, keep him alive if possible,
Right.
we'll throw him in prison, but we don't need to kill if we don't have to. And the king is just like, nope,
Yeah, King's got no margin for, you know, that's
king's
a
got no chill.
no, that's a F around and find out situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, no, go, no, no, try it. Try it. Let's see what happens. Go, go, go. Oh, you're dead. Like,
Yeah.
um, so they're all talking, and Selena mentions that she's sad. She's not going to the party. Kale says, I'll bring you back something. Don't feel too bad about going. It's probably going to be lame anyway.
Mhm.
And she's like, yeah, BS, bro. You know? And, they get so caught up in their banter. And we're really seeing this growing more between them because he is treating her more like a person
Mhm.
without him really like thinking about it. I
Yeah.
think it's slipping in and he's not realizing that he's, talking to her like a regular person.
Yeah.
Um, so Nehemia cuts in because she's probably sick of this. She's like, "Oh dear Lord, you guys like get a room." Eh.
Well, we have to remember Nehemia doesn't know what they're saying, like, because she speaks Elway, and Kale and Selena are talking in like, their common tongue, and
I thought she could understand a little bit,
a little bit, yeah. She's
but
been
probably not enough
learning.
to like catch like all of the nuances and all of the yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she cuts in and she's like, "I want I want Selena to teach me,
Mhm.
and I want her to teach me at least an hour every day before supper." And Kale's like, "No, I don't think I can swing that. Like, that's just, I know you're a princess, but you're asking a lot." But Nehemia also doesn't know that she is a champion to be. Selena doesn't
Correct.
necessarily have that much free time,
Well, free
you know.
time, and Kale's looking at it like Selena's an assassin. She shouldn't be spending this much time with the princess.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And Nehemia doesn't know. Yeah, Nehemia doesn't know that she's an assassin or that she's, competing to be the king's champion. She just thinks she's another lady at the castle.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
just has time to do whatever. And of course, Selena is like, I mean, that sounds like a good idea to me, and Kale's like, no, that's not going to happen. But they all get interrupted because they come around a corner or something. They're walking and they see Kane kneeling in front of the clock tower. He's looking at something on the ground, but as soon as he hears them, he gets up and he leaves.
Hmm.
And Selena notices that his hands are kind of dirty. And of course, they're like, again, Kane is on scene and he doesn't do anything. He immediately leaves.
But okay, so Selena is always surrounded by guards, right? Like, she has guards outside her room. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she has, I mean, Nehemia has guards with her too. Uh, but Selena always has guards or Kale or something. And Kane is just there by himself, playing in the dirt, not surrounded. Like, why doesn't he have guards with him? Like,
He seems like a bigger threat. Like,
right? Total sus.
yeah. And so they go up to where he was doing whatever, and it looked like he was cleaning one of the Wyrdmark tiles. And of course, the question is why? Nobody knows what
Mm-hmm.
these things are.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he so focused on it? Like, what was he doing? But nothing looked like it was out of place.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of like, Kane's just being weird. Like, maybe
So
he just
he's
likes,
being sus.
maybe he just likes old artwork. Like,
But see, I also found Nehemia being kind of sus too in this. Like, she mentions that she doesn't like Kane and she wants to
hmm
punch him in the face. But she knows what the word marks are because Helena asks her. But she claims that she doesn't know how to read them. But anytime someone says something quickly or too quickly, you know that they're hiding something.
hmm yeah,
So Nehemia definitely knows something. Little
yeah,
sus. Princess is hiding something.
yeah. And this princess is anyway. Um, yes. So Selena points out that there are more word marks, and Nehemia is like, we should just leave him alone.
Mm.
And it's like, well, why? Aren't they just etchings in the ground? Like, they don't mean anything. Like, yeah,
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. Then we see Selena catches Nehemia staring at her forehead. She thinks that there's dirt on her face, but there isn't. And it's just more general weirdness from Nehemia being a little too interested in things that others are not seeing. Like,
Mm.
and we're kind of wondering if Nehemia is catching on to the story, like, is there more to this Lillian character?
Mm.
Because as a typical court lady, right, she also shouldn't be so interested in these things. Or,
Yeah.
so even Lillian's Selena, she's showing too much interest as a court lady. So Nehemia would also be looking at that like, what you doing?
Right.
So you got two people looking at each other like, what you doing?
What you hiding? What
Yeah.
you hiding?
Um. So, there's definitely something afoot. Just general weirdness
Mhm.
from a lot of the characters right now because everyone is kind of doing their own thing and nobody's being truthful about their own thing, and it's
Yeah.
like, what are you guys
Tell me your secrets.
doing?
So, moving on to chapter 24. Uh, Selena, is pouting. She's on her bed while everybody's out having a grand old time at this feast. And she notices an old tapestry in her room at midnight. She has a test in a few hours but can't sleep. And on this tapestry is, a bunch of old animal motifs and stuff, but there is a life size, beautiful woman that's towards the bottom of the tapestry. And she realizes that this tapestry by the woman is moving, but her windows are shut and it's moving. It's a little sus.
And there are
So
no fans,
there
so
are no fans, there's no AC. So she goes over to inspect and she realizes that there is a secret hidden stone door behind this tapestry. How did she not discover this on day one when she was touring her room, trying to find any potential exits, weak points of her room, trying to make weapons out of cue sticks and hairpins and stuff. Like, do I read too
Seems,
many stories and play video games where, like, my first thought is always check the walls for secret passages?
dude, any painting, any door, I'm running my character right up into that shit. Like, can I go through here? Can I go through here?
Right? Right?
Window? No.
It's
Trapdoor.
it has been how many weeks, and she is now realizing that there is a hidden door in her
Yeah,
room.
it seems very unlikely that she would not have spotted that on day one in her desperate attempt to
Find
find a
any
way.
potential exits. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is, it's there to progress the story,
Yes.
but it's very out of place. The timing for this is, but I mean, realistically, how could you introduce this on day one? Because then you don't have the other stuff, because
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
the timeline won't work. It honestly would have been better if this had been described as her looking at it and going, "That was a wall the other day,"
Mm.
and
Yeah.
suddenly now it's a door, or an entry way.
Yeah.
But it's hard to buy the fact that a trained assassin
Who
who is
knows how to scale
who
castle
is
walls and everything.
desperate to find a way out
Mhm.
would not have walked up to a painting and been like, "Oh,
Right.
there's a door here. Oh my god!" Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was my little
No,
um
I definitely thought the same thing when I read it. It was kind of like,
okay.
okay, for the story's sake, we're gonna
We'll
roll
go
with
with it.
this. But then
Yeah.
how do you be like, oh, well, it can't be magic because there is no magic. So, like, you know,
Yeah.
or is there?
Dun
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 dun dun.
dun.
Uh, Nerd.
Oh.
Uh,
So Selena is excited to go exploring because she found a secret tunnel. I'm gonna do
secret
that
tunnel.
throughout. Yeah, that's the theme of this episode. So she goes and gets, some supplies, some yarn, chalk, her makeshift knife, candlesticks, props the door open with a chair, puts the tapestry over it, and then she goes off climbing down the stairs and comes down to a section where there's like three portals. So she decides to go towards the middle door because it was the closest one. And because one of the other ones seemed to have stairs that just continued to going down, down, down beneath the castle. So she
Mm-hmm.
goes to the middle one, and her passage soon becomes lighter, even though there's like moisture and fungus growing on the walls. But she keeps going, and soon enough, she discovers running water, and it's the sewer, and it's flowing straight out of the castle. And she's like, oh my god, landmine, right? No guards, no locks or anything. There is an iron fence that hovers just over the surface of this, but she again, if she had discovered the secret door to the secret tunnel on her first day, she could have escaped. And we would have had a completely different story. So,
That's true. She would have bounced. She would have been like, peace. Y'all will never see me again.
yeah. There are four small boats tied to either side of the bank. And there's other doors around this area, and she deduces that this is probably an old escape route, and she could see trees in the distance. So she determines that this is like the back of the castle, the side facing the sea. And she contemplates fleeing. Like, who wouldn't? Like, this is her chance. Everybody's getting drunk
Mm-hmm.
and pigging themselves out. They won't notice her until the next day.
They didn't notice a dude dead in the servants' stairwell for half a day.
What kind of ship is Kale running?
She would be gone. She would be so gone for so long before they even knew what happened. And then they would be standing there like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So she does. She contemplates taking a boat and disappearing. But she does not want to run away as a common criminal. She will stay. She will complete the competition, eat the free food, and get more training. Plus, she would need weeks to gather, some supplies to make this escape. So why rush it?
Yeah.
I do feel like there is a passage in this scene that we should make note of and come back to later. It's the passage, her foot slipped on a slick rung, and Selena barely stifled her cry as she gripped the bars. Cursing as her knee banged into the gate. Clinging to the gate, she closed her eyes. It was only water. We need to come back to this when we get to Assassin's Blade.
Okay.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Is that technically foreshadowing or is that backshadowing?
Depends on how you look at it. So she says goodbye to her freedom, and she backtracks, and she finds herself back at that three-way intersection, and she's contemplating, which of the other two portals to go through. And a really strong breeze blew so hard that it made Selena take a step towards the right arch, the right portal, and the flame on her candle is bending that way. Whispers lay on the breeze, seeming to be in a forgotten language. And she's like, oh, hell no. Whispers on Samhain would only lead to trouble. Good words to live by.
She's a girl that would survive the horror movie because she's the one who like opens the door to the basement and looks at it and goes, nah.
Nope.
The
So
end.
instead, yeah. So instead, she goes to the left. Winding upward stairs lead her to a straight hall, and she hears music, and from high above she could see the Great Hall, and everyone's eating, dancing, singing. She could see Kale, she could see Dorian, and she could see other members of her competition, the other champions. So,
Right. That's some BS right there.
Right? Grade A bullshit. This whole passage, she mentions it's a tiny passageway and that she's looking through a grate down, onto the great ballroom. And this reminded me when we were visiting Bunratty Castle in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Hers doesn't sound as nice. I think we were up in a upper, like, actual room that had like a little window that you could open, and then you could look down into like their great hall.
We were in an upper room that overlooked the court area. But similar vibes. Like,
yeah,
she was probably in like servants' quarters or not quarters, but
well. And she mentions that she could see like other grates across the room, so maybe they were like for spies and stuff, like for the king, to watch. Maybe it wasn't being used as much anymore. People forgot about it or something, since they seem to have forgotten about all these other secret tunnels. But yeah, so that just reminded me of our time at Bunratty Castle when we opened the little window and we got to peer down, and that was fun.
Plus those stairwells in Bunratty. I imagine it was probably kind of similar to what she was, like super steep, not room really for a person to pass by, because I mean castles were built that way for a reason.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah, those steps were scary.
What it brings to mind are those super narrow twisting passages on the,
We should insert a couple pictures at the end of this of like some of Bunratty.
Oh, yeah.
So she notes Kale's happiness and laughing, and it made her own face flush. Girl.
How dare he?
Why is your face flushing with him laughing? You're supposed to like the prince. Anyways, that's my own feelings. She realizes the other champions are at the party. Even Paylor, the half-raped boy assassin, WTF. But one good thing is she also realizes Kane is not in attendance. So he's probably, under lock and key like she should be. She does see Dorian dancing and laughing with some lady, and she finds herself still wanting to kiss the prince. And then she sees Kel weaving his way through the crowd and realizes, ah shit, he's probably leaving to go check on her. So she races back to her room and flunks herself back into bed. But who enters her room? Dorian! He cracks open her bedroom door to find her asleep, a book cracked open next to her, still in her 100-year-old dress. And while he's watching her sleep, he hears footsteps and finds Kale across the foyer. So we got two creepers.
Right? This is not right on any level. Like, they're just coming in while girls trying to sleep. I mean, we know she wasn't sleeping, but still. What the heck,
Yeah.
man?
Yeah. They confront each other. Kale kicks him out and locks the door. And Dorian trudges back up to his room and he doesn't sleep well that night. Kale doesn't understand the rage that rose upon seeing Dorian standing there in the bedroom doorway. He claims it's not jealousy. I think he's a liar. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did notice the way the passage is written, like the way Dorian observes and thinks of Selena while she sleeps versus Kale when he observes her sleeping. Like Dorian doesn't see a trace of aggression or bloodlust across her features, and he feels like he knows her somehow. And he wants to continue to know her, versus Kale seeing her sleep, even peaceful sleeping, sees her as a weapon, as a honed blade, a sleeping animal. She still has that killing potential.
Yeah. Yeah, he is definitely wary of her. But that's the soldier or guard in him. He's looking at it and going, you got to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Because that will get you killed. And Dorian is just like, nah, she's fine.
Selena does slightly stir from her sleep, and Kale gives her a trinket from the party. It happens to be a ring that they were giving out, and Selena cradles it, to her chest and goes back to sleep, and Kale leaves her alone. So he did. He kept his promise, and he did bring her something, but we're starting to see a little, tension between the two boys.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Girl just wants to do her thing. And now she got to worry about these two man children coming all up in her business. What the hell?
Of course.
All right. So, chapter 25. Selena dreamt of the secret tunnel. And that she had chosen the scary tunnel on the right. Because, of course.
Of course.
That's usually how dreams go, right?
Yep.
The passage goes down and down and down and down. Comes across other passages, but continues to follow the breeze that she dreams smelled like roses. She stops in front of an old wooden door with a bronze skull knocker on it. She goes into the room. There's moonlight coming in from a small hole in the ceiling, which is interesting considering that if she was going down and down and down around, like, where the hell did she go that there would be moonlight coming through a hole in the ceiling? Not important, just, interesting.
Yeah.
The moonlight comes in, it falls on a beautiful marble statue of a woman on a sarcophagus. And then there's a second sarcophagus that's next to it that had a male marble statue. Only the female one was bathed in moonlight. They both had crowns, and she looks and she realizes that there's sort of a rubbed out, probably Wyrdmark symbol on the queen's forehead. Now when I was reading it, I initially, when I read it the first time, thought it was a Wyrdmark on the crown on the forehead, but now I'm not sure if that was because we just read the part where Nehemia was focused on Selena's forehead,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm reading this again, and it says the queen's sarcophagus on her forehead. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah, let me see.
what was she looking for? Like, kind of an odd connection, right?
Yeah.
That I didn't catch that the first time.
I've read this book and listened to this book a couple of times, especially in preparation for the podcast, and I didn't catch it either until like I was brushing my teeth or something, and I went, "Oh my god, I just wrote the show notes about Nehemia looking at Selena's forehead, or Lillian's forehead as she knows her." And I also just wrote this thing about the word mark on the queen's forehead. That was like a chapter or two apart. Like, how have I never put this connection together? Like,
I
dur.
I just literally I thought that the Wyrdmark was on the crown when I read it the first time, and
I
so I didn't even pay attention to it.
Yeah, I have the book up right now. I'm trying to see, but I'm pretty sure it was on the forehead, not the crown. It's called Let's see. It was cold and hard, as a statue should be. Which queen were you? She said aloud, her voice Why can't I talk?
Reverberating.
Thank you. Through the still chamber. I can say it in my head, okay? She ran a hand across the lips, then across the brow. Her eyes narrowed. A mark was faintly carved into the surface, practically invisible to the eye. She traced it with her finger, then traced it again. Deciding that the moonlight must be bleaching it, Selena shielded the spot with her hand. A diamond, 2 arrows piercing its side, then a vertical line through its middle. It was the word mark she'd seen earlier. She stepped back from the sarcophagi, suddenly cold. This was a forbidden place. So yeah, I read that as on her forehead, like above her brow, and not on the crown.
Yeah, I think because when I read it, I think in my head when they talk about crowns always sit
On the forehead.
on so low on the forehead. Then
Yeah.
that was just my brain making a connection that wasn't there based on things I've seen on TV, things I've read. So it's just a detail that I missed the first time. But that's what's great about doing this stuff is you catch things that you didn't catch the first time. Yeah, so interesting connection. Is it foreshadowing? What's Nehemia's deal? There's some stuff going on. All right.
Yeah.
So we get a more detail of the room, right, that she's in. The floor is covered in stars that mirror the sky. The ceiling is depicting the earth. So it's kind of like a reverse. Kind of makes it seem like because the sarcophagus is on the star part, so it's like the the king and the queen are in the stars because the earth is on the other side. Kind of just interesting. And she notices that the walls have countless word marks etched in them everywhere, just covering the walls. And at the queen's feet, in stone letters, is "Ah times rift."
That's
And
such a weird thing.
yeah, like, what the hell does that mean? Because I mean, that's not the last words I would expect a queen to leave for.
No.
It's like, what do you want on your tombstone? That's like if I died and what do you want on your tombstone? New York crust is the best. Like,
Like, what in the world?
you know,
Yeah.
what kind of weird cryptic message is that? Because then people come in and they go, he didn't even like, he's vegan, he can't have pizza. You know? Like, anyway, um, she goes back to look at the queen and she notices the pointed and arched ears on the queen and realizes that the king is Gavin, the first king of Ardalan, and this is Queen Elena, the first princess of Terrasen, Brandon's daughter, and Gavin's wife and queen. So she is in the burial chamber of the first.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing she thinks of is she looks around and she's like, why is this tomb forgotten?
Mm-hmm.
They are literally the first king, queen, and nobody is here honoring them, taking care of this tomb, keeping it, where are the offerings and the flowers and, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Why was the queen and, why were they forgotten? I mean, this whole part of the castle seems to have been forgotten.
Yeah.
Why? What happened? She goes around, she notices that there's treasure, there's a golden suit of armor, a legendary sword called Damaris that belonged to Gavin. Is it Damaris or Damaris?
I think it's Damaris. I would have to re-listen to the audio.
Damaris sounds better, so we'll go with that.
Okay.
So while Selena is down there just sort of doing her thing, like, the hell is this? Who pops in?
Ooh,
It's the queen.
what the fuck?
She's not a ghost. But she's also not a haunt.
Yeah, so it's weird.
So she's not stuck in this place, but she's monitoring it?
There's something.
Like, I wasn't quite sure, like, is she keeping tabs on Selena to know when she comes in? Because, I mean, she's been expecting her.
Yeah.
So is it just when she came into the tomb and she's like, oh, somebody's in my tomb, I better go, or has she been watching her this whole time? And
Now's my chance.
because you kind of get the idea that she was trying to lead her there, right? With the whole breeze, when she was like, I am not going that way, I'm going that way.
Yeah.
So she was trying to get her there to meet her. So
That was my thought at first too, was that, when we come to this passage and Elena makes herself known, I was like, oh, that breeze from earlier, that was her trying to lead Selena here so they could, talk and whatever. But then later in this passage, I don't think it was. I think it was something else.
yeah, it's just, you start to how much is she watching? How much is she doing? Because then she does mention that her power is very limited and it takes a lot to even just come to visit her.
Yeah.
And that she kind of can't really do anything for her.
Yeah.
So, and maybe this is just because, well, no, actually, I'm not going to say anything about that. She says that she risked a lot coming to see her.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought was, if you're not technically a ghost, right? But this is like your spirit projection from wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it risky to do this? Like, you're already dead.
Yeah.
So what can happen to you? I do have other thoughts on that, but I don't want to talk about it because we're not there yet.
Okay. Jot those notes down for the next
yeah. It was just interesting because she was like, I'm here to sort of help you, at least answer some questions, but I can't stay for long because, this is risky business. And it's like, that's just odd to me. She tells Selena that the 8 guardians are being distracted. The 8 guardians are the gargoyles. And this was another thing. I was like, okay, the gargoyles. Like,
We're finally getting somewhere
I've
with
been
them.
expecting some stuff with the gargoyles.
Mm-hmm.
We get this,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Nothing.
that's it again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so they're guardians
Of a portal or
of
something.
something,
Oh,
but
a portal between worlds. But yeah.
then they don't. Again, there's like this attention drawn to the gargoyles, and that's it. And then you're like, okay, they're not that big of a threat then, maybe, or maybe they are. And I don't know. It seemed like a wasted opportunity to delve into some gargoyle bullshittery.
Mm.
Like,
Well, and you're a huge fan of like gargoyle mythos and stuff, and I
well, and
think we
just
were both
monsters
fan
in general.
monsters in general, and we both grew up on the animated gargoyle show, and we both loved that show. So yeah, I think me too. I was a bit disappointed. Like the purpose of this scene was Elena's message. I get that. But we had that sort of buildup of the descriptions of the gargoyles on the tower, and then we're being told the gargoyles are guardians. They're actual guardians of a portal between worlds. That's like some heavy business. But Elena's like, okay, but we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about this.
Yeah, she
Eh,
immediately moves on to like, there's a purpose for everything.
mhm.
There's no coincidence. You were meant to come to the castle. You were meant to be an assassin. You were meant to learn these skills. Nothing like telling a person that in order to do this, you had to suffer and it was justified. Like, I don't agree with that. um, and that there is something evil in the castle.
Mhm.
It's not the gargoyles, even though they're distracted, so they are a threat. So I guess
Mhm.
they're like a neutral party, and they're just like, my job is to guard this thing and just don't mess around, and you won't get in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's something evil. It's it's festering in the castle,
Mhm.
and she is the one who has to stop it. She's got to forsake friendships, debts, oaths, bonds, anything that's going to basically tether her to the world. She
Mhm.
needs to be prepared to give up. And that doesn't work for her.
That's such a hard task, especially for an 18-year-old. For somebody who just got out of being a slave. Like, this poor girl cannot catch her breath at all. And now
Right?
she's being asked to give up more. Like, she's struggling
Yeah.
to make friendships as it is right now and to find a support system, and some ghost queen who's not a ghost is like, yeah, you gotta sacrifice more.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a good way to end your evening, honestly.
No. No.
Um, she continues by telling her, you got to be the champion. You have to take care of, the people and understand what they're going through. And you really do. She wants to emphasize, you really have to be the champion. Like, this has to happen.
Mhm.
Then she gives Selena something cold and metallic. And then she tells her that both of them were led to the tomb that night, but Elena's not the one who did it. Um, and then we get the glimpse of a threat. Something
Mhm.
starts growling somewhere, and Elena is like, you need to get gone out of
Yeah.
here. And then Selena wakes up. She's out of breath, and she realizes that she's holding a coin-sized amulet in her hand, and that the door behind the tapestry is ajar again. She races to close it and just now realizes that the woman on the tapestry is Elena, and she's just not gonna sleep well after this, because yeah,
Who would?
well, I mean, she thought she was dreaming, but
Yeah.
she wasn't dreaming, but she was dreaming.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. Like, I'd be questioning so much. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was a lot. That was a heavy chapter. There
Yeah.
was a lot of stuff, and we're really seeing an unfolding of the bigger picture now,
Hmm.
of that there are things in play that Selena is finding herself the center of, that
Hmm.
she very much does not want to be the center of.
Yeah.
And, and she's fighting that, because for almost her entire life, since she was, well, not her entire life, but more than half of her life, she has had to follow the whims and wishes of people in power above her.
Yeah.
And all she needs now is Ghost Queen coming up and saying, by the way,
I need you to do.
you need to save the castle and all the people. And it's like, why?
I'm just trying to save myself, lady. Like, come on.
Like, I don't have enough on my plate?
Right.
Yeah. I get it. Girl frustrated. I would be frustrated too. I'm
Yeah.
frustrated for her.
Moving into chapter 26, our final chapter for today. Kale again barges into her room, waking Selena up. Selena, on edge because what a night she's had, jumps out of bed with a candlestick in hand. He demands to know where she was during the night, and she's like, "The fuck, dude? I've been here all night in my room. Didn't he stop by to give me a ring from the party?" Um, but he still proceeds to question her about where were you the rest of the night? And she's like, "Dude, ask the guards outside my room. I've been in my room all night." So, what has happened? There was another murder. Xavier the thief from Melisande was killed on Samhain and was half eaten. So the test for the day has been cancelled. We have another killing of a champion, and a champion whose name we were given. So all the champions that were named are dying off one by one.
Maybe that's the problem. Give
If
him a
you have
name,
a
and
name,
then, oh man, does that mean that Nox is not out of the woods yet? Because
oh, don't say that about my Nox.
we know his name. I mean,
Oh
we
no.
also know the name of the rat guy, the rat boy.
True. Well, I mean,
Um,
we know Kane's name. Come on now. Somebody knock off Kane.
he's
Uh,
too big.
yeah. So Selena suspects Kane and she tells Kale, like, what about Kane? And Kale continues to question her about her whereabouts. And, she told him about the guards. So training is also canceled for that day because Kale has to go and investigate this other murder. Um,
And if we just stop for a second,
mhm.
Kale really came up to her room and was like, "Where were you? Did you murder somebody and also eat half of him?"
Right?
This girl is like 90 pounds, soaking wet, right?
Yeah.
And literally every other champion, other than maybe the rat boy assassin, is bigger than her.
You keep calling him Rat Boy. Poor Paler.
It's because I couldn't remember his name. Um, but Kale really came up there and with full chest and was like, "Did you murder and eat half of this champion?" And she's like, first
Dude,
off,
what?
bro, I've been sleeping. And why was the second argument? And bro, I'm not a cannibal.
Well, I've mentioned this in
Hmm.
the previous podcast. Like, we get one step forward with Kale and his evolving relationship with Selena, and then like two steps back. And I get that he has to do his job and he has to question, all suspects and everything. But like, oh my god, dude.
Right. Do you consume of the human flesh? And she's just like, no. Okay, end of conversation.
I want to know if he questioned the guards outside her door. Like, do your job.
Yeah.
Question the guards that were supposed to be guarding her. And didn't he have guards like stationed outside her balcony as well? Like, we've read about that in the
Mm-hmm.
early part of the book. So, yeah.
Yeah, because when she first got there, she poked her head out and they saw her and she was
Yeah.
like, cool, peace. And she went back inside.
Yeah. So, like, come on, Kale. This is unnecessary drama, even for
Yeah,
you.
right. Just so many things in this conversation went wrong and they
I
didn't
get
need
he's
to.
highly stressed. Like, he's highly stressed. I get it. There's another murder. Like, oh my god. But, like, come on. So,
Yeah.
she she tells him she's lucky. She gets to sleep for extra 5 hours today because there's no training, there's no test. What else is she going to do? So, she waits for him to leave and she gets ready and she wonders if Xavier had been killed by one of the screeching creatures that was in her dream, not dream, from when she was in the tomb.
Yeah.
But the creatures had been near the tomb and Xavier wasn't. So she tries to fortify, the locks on her windows and her doors, tries to arm herself the best she can since she doesn't really have weapons. And she heads back down to the tomb. She's trying to find anything that's going to explain Elena's motives or what this mysterious evil that's lurking around might be. But there's no trace of Elena, no trace of whatever had been growling and screeching. Um, and as she leaves the tomb, she decides she's going to focus, as she should, on being the king's champion first. And if she wins, then maybe she'll figure out about this whole evil thing.
If she can be bothered.
Yeah. Yeah. Girl has priorities. Come on.
Same.
So Selena convinces her guards to escort her to the library, and on the way they happen to see Xavier's half-eaten body. So you mean to tell me this whole time they discover the body, Kale rushes to her, questions her, he gets kicked out, she gets ready, she heads down to the tomb, spends time in the tomb exploring more stuff, comes back out, gets dressed to be presentable in public, and then they go out and the body's still there. Okay. I don't you think this would have been cleaned up a lot earlier, but so his vital organs were removed yet again. This is no accidental killing. The brain is gone too. This time there's smears of blood on the walls, like someone was writing with the blood and then smeared it. And she can notice that the writing was word marks, 3 of them. So we're seeing more and more of these word marks come into play. Um, and she just can't believe that Kill suspected her. This was a tasteless murder. This was just brutal and ugly and messy. And her methods as a trained assassin would be very quick and clean.
Mm-hmm.
And with the word marks now around the body, this seems to make it more ritualistic. So there's going to be more thought behind this. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier, if you're removing vital organs, this is not just some murder. This is a very premeditated thing. Yeah, you could say it's ritualistic. So I'm curious if the other murders that happened were there word marks also?
Mm,
And did Kale happen to notice that?
yeah. I also want to know, because I don't think it was touched on, if up to this point, if the ones who were killed, if they were targeted or if they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Ooh, that's good. I don't remember that offhand, actually. Should jot that down and we should see.
Like, were they just wandering around the castle and like, oh, hey, yummy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like if it was targeted, they would have gone after her.
I think so. Yeah. Just because she's a female. She's a young female.
She'd be easy to pick off. Like,
Yeah.
so
Unless they're like, oh, she's easy to pick off, somebody's gonna take care of her during one of the tests. Let's let's focus on one of the bigger, better, things, especially if it's a ritualistic sort of thing. They
yeah,
could be going for a certain type.
true. I don't know, just
Yeah.
interesting.
So as she's, eyeing the remains, she notices that Grave, the vicious assassin, was approaching from the other end of the hallway. They speak a couple words to each other as they pass each other by, but nothing, really comes of it. And this scene switches, and it's Dorian and Kale, and they're sparring. They haven't sparred in a while together, and Dorian is out of breath, and he remembers, he used to be on equal skill with Kale, but with time and stuff, he has to go to court with his mom, and he has to attend all these meetings, and he's grown to prefer books over swords, so he likes to read a lot.
You can do both, bro. Just make time.
Yeah,
Make time.
just make time all the time.
All the time.
Kale tells him he's using the meetings as an excuse to argue with Duke Parrington, or he's too busy visiting Selena's room. I think Kale is a little salty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Dorian also challenges Kale as to why he was in her room, especially the same night that the other champion died. We do learn that court with his mother is terrible. There's still no word from the king, like where he is, what he's doing. And Dorian voices concerns about the string of murders and Selena's safety. Kale reports that he's stationed more guards outside her suite, and Dorian wonders if it's to protect her or to keep her in her room. And Kale quietly responds, "What difference does it make? You don't seem to care either way. You'll visit her no matter what I say. And the guards won't stop you because you're the prince." Again, with the saltiness. Like, Dorian notes his words sound, so defeated, so bitter. And why is that? Is it because Kale is trying to protect the prince over and over again, and Dorian just does what he wants anyway? Or is this something more, like Kale is frustrated living in the prince's shadow? Kale may be thinking that once again, Dorian is going to get the girl. Jealousy, like, I don't know. But they part ways, and Dorian, heads back up to his room, and he feels alone in his tower.
Yeah, I can see from Kale's point of view, like Dorian can come and go mostly as he pleases, other than when he's, got to do meetings or abide by his mother or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of, literally everything else, he can come and go as he wants and nobody can stop him.
Yeah.
Kale doesn't have that freedom. He is the captain of the guard,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't give him the ability to, because he's got to maintain the other guards. He's got schedules to do. He's got trainings to do. So even though he does spend a lot of time with Selena, he's not with her all the time. And Dorian can just, if he wants to, pop up in the be like, hey, what's up? And I could see where Kale would be like, everyone's got to follow the rules except for the prince. And even though he's the prince, you're still going to be a little bit like, yeah, just freaking go and do whatever it is that you're going to do because you're not going to listen anyway. Like,
Yeah.
and that gets annoying. Like,
Yeah. Especially when he's like, in charge of everybody's safety and everything. But I feel like there's a little trouble with their bromance right now.
yeah, oh, definitely. It all started when they pulled her out of the mine.
So it's their fault.
And poor Selena is just like, so what now?
I think you're hot, but I want to kiss you. But I need to focus.
Yeah, she's got things on her mind, and the men ain't it.
No.
I mean, they are kind of, but not super duper. She doesn't need this right now.
No.
She got a lot going.
Yep.
She's got to save the kingdom.
Yes. Any favorite moments or parts from these chapters?
I think I like overall. I really liked more character, development and everything. I liked seeing that the bigger plot seems to be sort of unveiling itself, even though we don't really know what's going on. We know there's something, and we know that these deaths are not accidental, and we know that, there's something out there eating these people.
Yeah.
Or supposedly eating these people, whether it's ritual or just, who knows, cannibalistic, hunger, hangry, who knows. I did really enjoy Selena saving Nox on the wall. Yeah, very, very just her like looking at a situation and going, crap, okay, and diving into it and just being like, not on my watch,
Yeah. And I am a big fan of the secret tunnel tropes. I love secret passageways and tombs and stuff. So I enjoyed that, and meeting with Elena and everything, as cryptic as it was. So I did enjoy these chapters. I felt like these chapters, like you said, we're finally really starting to see the arch of the story and seeing the bigger stuff now. So yeah, it was exciting to get to this part.
It was good stuff. I enjoyed it. So that wraps up chapters 21 through 26 of Throne of Glass. There was a lot. We covered all kinds of stuff. Like you said, there was a test. A couple people died. I mean, well, yeah. To this point, we've only had one person die accidentally. Everyone else has been actively murdered.
Yeah.
So, not great odds. We've had a visit from a not ghost. Still not entirely clear on that one. A secret tunnel. And then, of course, the rift between Dorian and Kale. So, if you guys have any thoughts or theories, ideas, give us a comment. You can leave us a comment on our YouTube. You can always email us at hello@bookscatsandchaos.com. If you have, any ideas or insights or anything like that, send them over and we'll be happy to, kind of take a look at them and discuss them on the next episode. Do you guys fall in line with the things that we're thinking? Or do you disagree? We're not the authority on this. This is just the way that we perceive the story. So yeah, give us a shout out, give us a listen, let us know what you think. And next week we will be going through chapters 27 through 33, the official halfway point of the book. And yeah, we're actually going to be moving through this pretty quick. I think we've got about 4 more episodes planned for book 1. And since we're coming up on Christmas, we are planning a special, well, maybe 1 or 2 special holiday episodes for you guys. And yeah, there's a lot going on.
So please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, and rate us. Your likes and ratings and comments really do mean a lot to us. We really appreciate it. So if you like what you hear so far, share with your friends, share with your family. You can also check us out on TikTok and Instagram. And as we head out, please don't forget to give some love to our friends over at K911 Rescue. K911 Rescue is a rescue that is devoted to cats and dogs and other creatures that no one wants, and they often get overlooked because, they're seniors, they're handicapped, they're homeless, they're not the cute, fluffy ones. So they try to save and help as many special needs animals as they can. And currently, right now, K911 Rescue needs everyone's help. They just rescued a dog, Crescent, and she is currently fighting a upper respiratory infection. She also needs her vaccines, a fecal test, and she needs to be spayed. She is a beautiful, gorgeous, good girl, and they are trying to raise funds so they can help get her feeling 100% and finding a good home for her. So if you can, please head over to their website. They do accept PayPal, Venmo, and Zelle, and there's links on their website. Every little bit helps. I know we're all strapped right now, but $1 or $2 goes a long way.
And
So
we have a link to the donate page in the show description.
Yes.
So
we will post that in our show notes and everything. And K911 Rescue is also on social media. They have Instagram, they have TikTok, and everything. So please give them subscribe, follow them, give them your love. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate them doing all the hard work that they do. So, friends, we will see you next time.
all right, see you guys later.